pressure on our body, which means it's like having a full moon all the time. You see, because it keeps pushing in on us. It makes us get to the place where some of those pressures tighten us up. And then the circulation, of course, slows down. And that's going to cause a pressure problem within our body that the body has to deal with. And there's lots of symptoms, as I said before, that we go through when that happens. And there's a lot, as I said, there's a lot of names that we give to a lot of symptoms and problems. And there's always going to be a pressure problem in those areas where those symptoms take place. It can take place in your liver, your pancreas, your heart, your arteries, your eyes, your ears, your head, your feet. Could be any place in your body. These pressure problems could be taking place. And so we've got to, again, you could go paranoid thinking about, well, how am I going to keep this adjusted, you know? Well, you could get a little blood pressure thing and measure every one of your fingers and put one around your head to see if the pressure's building up there. And I mean, you could go, you know, carry all these little gadgets to see where your pressure is and then try to increase the pressure where you need to and decrease it where you don't. That'd be a full-time job just doing that, wouldn't it? But see, our Creator's programmed your body to be able to make those adjustments every few seconds, because sometimes it has to do that. And so when it can't do that, when your body cannot adjust to these pressure fluctuations, that's when we have a problem. So what we want to look at next is what are we doing in our lifestyle that's causing these blood pressure problems. We can't just keep running to another part of the country. You know, the moon really makes me uptight. So what I'm going to do is get in my Winnebago. I'm going to stay ahead of the full moon. Now most people can't do that, can they? Or if there's a storm, I'm going to get my Lear jet. If there's a low coming or a high, I'm going to get my Lear jet and run over to where it's not. That's not too practical. See, we can't do too much about the outside environmental situations, although in the big city you have more environmental pressure problems than you do in the country. And we might mention that if you're around a lot of electrical wires and computers and things like that, that also adds to the pressure. So there are some things like that that we could take some steps in our lifestyle to try to avoid, or at least find ways to compensate. Like staying around the TV too close, you know, too close around the TV. You know, that keeps draining your, that's going to affect your pressure. It's going to cause a pressure problem if you did that a lot, see. So there are some things that we can do as far as not trying to go out of our way to avoid those man-made electrical gadgets that tend to add to the environment and pressure of our environment in which we have our bodies. The car, the way you travel, and there's just a lot of things like that. The kind of home we have, how much, how it's constructed, and a lot of these types of things. What kind of air conditioning and heating and you know, humidity, and there's a lot of things like that that we can do to improve our environment that we need to consider, because a lot of them do have an effect on our pressure problems and can cause pressure problems. Okay? So, but generally, there's not too much we can do about the pressure that's on the outside. No one can go move the moon away or say, I'm going to stop the moon and I'm going to stop the sun from doing its thing, you know. was it Joshua that stopped the sun and time stood still for a certain length of time? Okay, we can't just go do that, right? That's a pretty big little deal there to be able to stop it. So there's not a whole lot we can do about the pressures on the outside pushing in, unless we're not going to do anything about our lifestyle as relates to water, breathing, rest, and foods, which has a lot to do with the pressures on the inside of our body. Okay, if we're not going to do anything about that, then we might have to go move somewhere else in order to feel good. That's why a lot of people in Michigan, where I go, during the winter come down to Florida. You know, because they don't have near the problems when they go down to Florida during the wintertime. Because you don't get much. There's a lot of pressure up in Michigan during the wintertime. Because you hardly see the sun at all. You know, lots of lows. So some people can move and do move to other locations to help because they feel better. But our goal should be to help our body get to the place where it wouldn't matter. That's when it's really vital and healthy. So let's look at some of the things that affect the blood pressure or cause blood pressure problems. Things that we do as it relates to the internal functions of our body. As I mentioned, your blood, we're talking about the blood pressure problems. So it's the ability of your blood to circulate through your body at a certain rate that determines how much pressure is going to build up within your body to compensate for the pressure on the outside. And normally our creator has programmed our computer to adjust that pressure by speeding up the circulation of the blood or slowing it down according to the pressure coming in on us. And whether it doesn't matter what the cause of it, the increase or decrease of the pressure on the outside, your body's programmed to make adjustments that will compensate. So if it's a full moon, then it increases the pressure to compensate for a full moon. When you're mad at somebody, then it compensates for you being mad. Okay, for the pressure of that. Okay? And different times of the year, there's different pressures. You know, when it's hot out, then everything's expanded, and the earth expanded, so there's less pressure generally when it's hot coming in against you. When it's cold, there's more pressure generally as far as the climate and weather. Okay? So your body then, when it's hot outside, your body then has to adjust the circulation of your blood in order to compensate. Which would be the heat would tend to want to speed it up, wouldn't it? You know, the temperature. So your body has to make all these neat little adjustments. So when the blood circulation of the blood is not able, the body's not able to adjust the circulation of the blood to compensate for the different pressures that are coming in on you, the 14 pounds per square inch. Let's use that as an average. Let's say it's 16 pounds per square inch. Then your body has to increase the circulation in order to come up to 16 pounds pushing out, or you're going to collapse somewhere. Okay? So it's when it's not able to do that. Now the key factor, the computer's programmed to make those adjustments. And sometimes it can put some hormones into the blood to speed it up, or increases the temperature to speed it up, or decreases the temperature to slow it down. You know, just makes little changes that way. It might tighten up the kidneys, and the adrenals are sitting on your kidneys, and every 23 seconds your blood's flowing through your kidneys. So your kidneys could tighten up a little bit and slow down the blood circulation through your system. That would increase the pressure, right? And by doing that. Or the kidneys could let it go through a little bit faster. Let the circulation go through a little faster and make an adjustment that way. So see, there's temperature, pressure by restricting the flow of the blood. There's a lot of different ways that the body can do this. But what if the kidneys are all clogged up? You know? What if your thyroid can't work on the temperature? What if your hormones are all messed up? Then see, you're going to have some blood pressure problems, aren't you? Something's going to interfere with the body being able to make those adjustments in the pressure on the inside of your body. So what we want to do is make sure there's nothing in our lifestyle that's interfering with the body's ability to adjust to those blood pressure, those variations in the blood pressure. So all we got to do is make sure we're breathing. Let's look at these 4 energy intakes. And let's look at the way the body cleans, because if there's obstructions in our body, then an obstruction by definition is anything that interferes with the circulation of blood. So if there's obstructions anywhere in our body, it's going to block the ability of the blood to flow in that particular area. So we already know that's a blood pressure problem, isn't it? Because that is going to have a direct effect on the flow of the circulation. And when that flow of the blood can't get around, then we got a blood pressure problem. It's going to be either too low or too high, depending on where it's at. And so then the body's not going to be able to adjust to the outside pressures. All right? And again, remember, you could have obstructions in any part of your body, and there'd be a blood pressure problem there, but they'd check your arm and they'd never know it. You could have a headache and still not have high blood pressure when you wrap it around your arm and crank it up there and check it, because your artery's okay on that left side, or your vein. See? So they didn't put it around your head and check it there when you had a headache. If they did that, they'd see the pressure was kind of high. See? But see, because that's why this test is really not accurate for hardly anything. Because just squeezing it in there is building up pressure. You know? So obstruction, let's look at these obstructions first. Obstruction is anything that interferes with the circulation of blood to any part of your body. All right? So what is there in our lifestyle that causes these obstructions? Well, there's 2 main things that we allow into our body that can cause these pressure problems. Now, the way the body cleans itself is through the kidneys and the bowel systems, and the skin through perspiration, and then through, you can breathe or throw up and get it out. All right? That's the way the body gets rid of these obstructions. Now, when the kidneys and the bowels primarily, 92% of our cleaning of these obstructions out of the body take place through the kidneys. It's water-insoluble waste, or water-soluble waste, or what we call obstructions, water-soluble, or it can be dissolved in water. They come out through the kidney by way of the bladder. And then your bowel eliminates insoluble waste products. Now, when your kidneys and your bowel can't get it out, then it has to store it. And when it has to store it, wherever it stores it, that's where you're going to have an obstruction, and eventually that's going to interfere with the circulation of the blood, which then is going to cause a pressure problem. Does that make sense? It's pretty easy to understand, isn't it? So anything that keeps the kidneys and the bowels from doing their job is going to cause a blood pressure problem. So the first thing we'd want to do is make sure the kidneys and bowels are doing a good job, right? Because when they're not doing a good job, and there is obstruction somewhere located in our body, we can't get them out of where they're located unless we can make sure the kidneys and the bowels will help us get it out of the body. A lot of people want to get it out of where it's stored, but they even build up more pressure problems because they don't help the main elimination organs get it out of the body. They just shift it from one place to another place to make you feel better. See? And a lot of times people, for example, the blood pressure problem of gaining weight, they'll do on these weight loss diets that take the pressure away from, say, their hips. And they put it in their heart or their arteries or force into their lungs. They haven't helped get out of the body and help the kidneys and the bowels get it out through the colon and the kidneys. They just force the body to squeeze it out of where it's stored in the hips, which is safer than your heart, right? Would you like to have high blood pressure in your heart and your arteries or your hips? Or your legs? Or your swollen hands or feet? They're a lot safer out here than in here someplace, especially in your brain, right? So a lot of people manipulate their bodies to deal with the pressure problems. And you can do that with drugs, and you can do that even with vitamins and minerals. And you can even do it through eating certain types of foods, or not eat certain types of foods. But the thing that we need to consider is make sure that our elimination organs, kidney and bowels particularly, are, we've done things, made adjustments, and helped them do their job like they're supposed to do it. And so that there's a way out for these obstructions that are causing the blood pressure problems. And once you help the elimination organs get rid of the obstructions like they should, then the body will go after these stored obstructions, whether they're in your eyes or your arteries or your hips or your feet or your organs in your body. See, the body wants to get those out just as much as you do. But let's make sure they can get out of their body before we start doing things that get it out of where it's stored. So that's one of the things we have to do to prevent blood pressure problems. We've got to make sure that the elimination organs are doing their job. But there's two main little things that we do and put into our body that cause these blood pressure problems and usually overload the kidneys and the bowels so they can't do their job. One of them is salt. Salt in your body causes high blood pressure problems because salt increases the voltage in your body or the current in your body. So if we were to plug this equipment that we're videoing with into a 220 instead of a 1, what would happen, do you think? You'd probably increase the pressure and blow some circuits, see? Because there's too much current coming in for the design of this equipment. And our body is designed, in fact, our body has 120 volts. That's what it runs on when you add up every different part of your body and add each one up and then take the total. It all runs on 120 volts. See? Now, when you get too much salt in your body, it increases the voltage. And that makes you feel good. A little salt on something. That kicks you, makes you feel good. Because it increases the voltage, see? Increases the pressure, increases the circulation. But that salt can't get out of the kidneys quick enough, then it has to be stored someplace. And it starts building up pressure, increases the pressure, to the point where there's evidence and examples where people's pressure in their head got so high, their head just exploded. And there's examples where a pressure got so high in a person's body that it just tore apart. That's how high it could get. And of course, that would tend to happen if they stuck their finger in a socket and got too much pressure too, you see. But salt does that very same thing. Salt is the enemy of this body, inorganic salts. And it's a big cause of most of our blood pressure, especially high blood pressure problems. So to not only give up the salt shaker, most of the canned foods are full of salt. Anything that doesn't have to be refrigerated, it's supposed to be live food, that's sitting out there on the shelf and it's not refrigerated, guess what? Salt is a preservative. So if you don't want to be embalmed when you die, just eat a lot of salt. You won't even have to be embalmed. The salt will keep you preserved and you won't spoil. But see, that's for dead people. You're not supposed to be dead. You're not dead. I mean, you're not supposed to be embalming your body right now. And that's what we do with the salt, and we increase that pressure. As I said, your capillaries break, varicose veins, stretching. You look like you're pregnant. The colon gets in trouble because the colon stretches and prolapse and droops, just like a lot of other parts of our body can do it. And we get love handles and stuff like that. See, all of that is pressure building up in different parts of our body. And salt's one of the main reasons for that. So they make the ingredients, you have to look at a microscope, but I would do it. I would take one of the, like Sherlock Holmes, take one of these big magnifiers and go into those stores and let them see you looking at those things. So they make them so small, you have to have glasses even if you have a 20/20 vision to see them. They got them so small. And they don't want you to see them, see? So they have to make them small, though even you have glasses, you can't read them. So just go in there with a big detective one, let them see it. Now, you're not going to put up with that stuff and read all those things and just go talk to the manager. Hey, I'd like to talk to you. You realize you got all this salt in this stuff, preservatives and stuff. But see, because when you put those foods that have that into your body, then see, you're increasing the pressure. And that's causing blood pressure problems and circulation problems and health problems as a result of that. So salt is your enemy. And sea salt's just as bad as any other salt. Okay? So don't be fooled by that. Then the other thing that causes pressure problems that we usually, now salt you get in your water too. That's why I recommend distilled water. See, people say, well, we need these minerals in our water. And when you drink distilled water, you're leaching out all these minerals. These minerals are salts. And they're inorganic salts that they're talking about. And they cause blood pressure problems. All right? So don't go for that. Most of the people that say we need salts in our water and we need to add salts and we need salts in our diet are people that are listening to the abiogenesis philosophy of life, which means that they believe we evolved out of the ocean. Somewhere our ancestors jumped out of the sea onto the ground and started evoluting to what we are today, even though we can't find anybody in the transition. I can't find anyone jumping out of the sea lately, becoming a mammal, you know, or these in between, an ape man, you know. But yet that's where that philosophy comes from, that we need salts, because salt water is part of our evolution, and so we need it. So it's in our body, so therefore we must need it, right? Instead of looking at these salts that you find in the blood and find in the fluids coming out of the body, whether it's the skin or the kidneys and bladder, that these are byproducts, these are waste products. These are products that the body needs to be eliminating in order to keep the blood pressure where it's supposed to be. And just because they're there doesn't mean that we should be putting them in. They're the end products, the waste products that happen as a result of our chemical processes that are going on in our body. So the other thing is that we get too much of is protein. Too much protein causes low blood pressure problems. Okay? Because too much protein is very acid in our body. Now, I'm talking about mainly meat proteins, but all proteins can be a problem if they've been processed or we can't digest them or we get too much of them. We're supposed to only have 15 to 25 grams of protein is all that our body can handle in a 24-hour period. And the main time that we can process protein is between 10 and 2, or between, 12 and 2. You know, when the sun is closest to us. It takes 4 hours to digest protein. I'm talking about mainly meat proteins, between 12 and 2. So it'd take 8 hours if you ate some fish between, say, 5 and 7. And after 7, it could take 10 plus. Who knows how long? Okay? So we get too much protein. We eat it at the wrong time. And if there's a lot of fat or water added to the digestive process of protein, then what happens is this protein, instead of breaking down into amino acids, breaks down into uric acid. And uric acid tightens us up. It's very acid, so it stimulates us too, so it makes us feel like we got a kick. And that's why for people who have weight problems, high blood pressure problems, they put them on high protein diets, even protein pills or powders or liquids, you know. But see, that acid makes the body need more water, because if your blood turns acid, you're dead. So your body, to keep that from happening, pulls more water out of your tissues where it's stored by the salts, and pulls it out and uses it to dilute the uric acid, so your blood won't turn acid and you die. So really, you could say these high protein diets are manipulating your body so that in order to keep your blood from turning acid and you dying, it's making you lose water weight. Now that's not the way to lose weight, is it? See? Just to get that pressure down. But that's what people are doing all the time. And they got this nice figure